Okay, so here's the example of the offer that you just signed right now, and let me explain to you how to read this offer. So when I put together an offer, I usually put it in this order so that it's easier for you to follow. So let's go through the offer that you just signed. So in the first page, it usually have the property. By the way, I redacted this information here, so it might not be the same information as what you have. So this is how I put together the offer. So your first page would be the property, okay, and the second page is usually the form 801, which I didn't have it here. So the form 801 is something like this. So this is just for example. So the purpose of this form 801 is to identify your position in the offer. Okay, let's scoot over to the offer. So the third page would be the agreement of purchase and sale. So in this case, this would be a condominium. If you have a freehold, it would say a freehold here, but it's pretty much the same template. So the agreement of purchase and sale, the first line would be the date of when you sign the offer, and you obviously have your name here as a buyer and the name of the seller and also the name of the property. Okay, if this is a condominium, it would say the condominium information, including the parking. So the second thing that you need to look at is obviously the price and also your deposit. So what this means is that deposit is upon acceptance. So what this means is that once the seller accepted your offer, you have to put in your deposit within 24 hours upon acceptance. And the deposit, it will be in the form of bank draft, certified check. It cannot be a cash or personal check, and it will be delivered to the listing brokerage. In this case, it would be the brokerage, which is here. So that's what you're gonna put on the name of the certified check. So irrevocability. So what this means is that how long is your offer gonna be valid? Irrevocability is until 11 p.m. So what this means is that if the seller do not agree or do not respond to this offer by this time, 11 p.m., by this date, that this offer will be dead. Okay, completion is obviously going to be your closing date. If the seller accepted your offer, this would be your closing date. Okay, so it's good over on number 4 where it says chattels. So the definition of a chattels is that anything that comes with the property. For example, if you were to turn the property upside down, anything that falls off, it will be chattels. Okay, anything that is affixed to the property, it would be fixtures. So what the chattels have is, it says all existing, all electrical light fixtures, broad and well laid, all window coverings, fridge, stove, washing machine, dryer, gas furnace, central air conditioning, and all permanent fixtures now on the property belong to the sellers and free of encumbrances. So if there's anything in here that the seller do not have, they would obviously cross it out. Okay, so number 6, rental items. So the rental items is not part of the offer, and you as the buyer would be assuming these rental items. In this case, it would be hot water tank, or if there's a home alarm system, you would be assuming all these rental items. Number 7, common expenses. So this would be your maintenance fee, and in this case, this is the maintenance fee, and it covers the building insurance, common elements, water, and parking. Okay. Number 10, title search. What this means is that that would be the date your lawyer can execute the title search. Now scoot over on number 32. So this is where your signature is, and can you see this where it says confirmation of acceptance? So let me explain to you what this means. Okay, confirmation of acceptance. So this would be a good news for you. So once this has been signed, this offer would be final and it can no longer be changed. So whether on their side or our side, once this confirmation of acceptance has been signed, it would be final and it can no longer be changed. If for whatever reason that we need to change something on this agreement of purchase and sale, then we're gonna have to use an amendment once this confirmation of acceptance has been signed. Okay. Now let's go to the schedule. So the schedule A is where we put all the conditions of the offer. On this case, it have the condition of a financing, home inspection, and condition of a status certificate. So let's go through this line by line. On the first paragraph, it says the buyer agrees to pay the balance of the purchase price subject to adjustments to the seller on completion of this transaction with funds drawn on the lawyer's trust account in the form of bank draft, certified checks, or wire transfer using the large value transfer system. So what this means is that all your deposit and a down payment, whether now or on closing, it will be delivered to the seller's lawyer's trust account in the form of bank draft or a certified check. We do not accept cash or a personal check. Second paragraph, condition of financing. It says this offer is conditional upon the buyers arranging at the buyer's own expense a new first charge mortgage satisfactory to the buyer in the buyer's sole and absolute discretion, unless the buyer gives notice in writing delivered to the seller or the seller's agent within 5 banking days, excluding Saturday, Sundays, and statutory holidays from the date of acceptance of this offer, that this condition is fulfilled. This offer shall be null and void, and the deposit shall be returned to the buyer in full without deduction. This condition is included for the benefit of the buyer and may be waived at the buyer's sole option by notice in writing to the seller or the seller's agent within the time period stated herein. So what this means is that you have 5 banking days for you to exercise this clause and to go through with your financing with your broker. And if something were to happen and you don't get approved on your financing within 5 banking days, then you can retrieve this $20,000 deposit here. Okay. Second condition is for home inspection. It has the same wording except the first 2 lines where it says this offer is conditional upon the inspection of the unit and the common elements by home inspector at the buyer's own expense and obtaining of a report satisfactory to the buyer and in the buyer's sole and absolute discretion. And the rest of them, the same sentences from the financing conditions. So what this means is that while you're doing your financing condition, you also are doing your home inspection within the 5 days that they allocated for you. Okay. And same thing, if there's something that you're not happy with the property that is not within your satisfaction, then you can go back and exercise this clause and retrieve your $20,000 deposit. The third clause is in this case, it would be the status certificate, since this is a condo, and it says this offer is conditional upon the buyer's lawyer reviewing the status certificate and attachment and the finding the status certificate and attachment satisfactory in the buyer's lawyer sole and absolute discretion. The seller agrees to request at the seller's expense the status certificate and attachment within 2 days after acceptance of this offer, unless the buyer gives notice in writing to the seller personally or in accordance with any other provisions for the delivery of notice in this agreement, purchase and sale, or any scheduled thereto not within 5 banking days, excluding Saturday, Sundays, and statutory holidays, following the receipt by the buyer's status certificate and attachments, that this condition is fulfilled. This offer shall be null and void, and the deposit shall be returned to the buyer in full without deduction. This offer is included for the benefit of the buyer and may be waived at the buyer's sole options by notice in writing to the seller as aforesaid within the time period stated herein. So what this clause means is that once the offer has been accepted, the seller should request the status certificate from the condo corporation within 2 days. And once we have the certificate in our hand, we have 5 banking days, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and statutory holidays for our lawyer to go through it. So that's what this clause means. And same thing, if you're not happy with the findings of the status certificate, you can also walk away from this offer and get back your deposit, your $20,000 deposit in this case. Okay. Next paragraph. The sellers represent and warrants that these fixtures and chattels as included in this agreement purchase and sale will be in a good working order and free from all liens and encumbrances upon completions. The parties agree that this representation and warranty shall survive and not merge on completion of this transaction, but apply only on the state of the property at the completion of this transaction. So what this means is that all the fixtures and chattels should be in the working order until the completion of this transaction. Okay. Next paragraph says the buyer shall have the right to access the property for the purpose of revisit or taking a measurement and or obtaining estimates from the decorators 2 further times prior to completion at a mutually agreed upon times, provided that notice is given to the seller. The seller agrees to provide access to the property for the purpose of this revisit. So what this means is that once they accepted the offer, you have 2 further times to revisit the property. Okay. The keyword is revisit. It's not an inspection. It is for the purpose of revisiting and taking measurements. Or if you have a family members that wants to see the property, that would be the good time to do so. Okay. And last a paragraph, it says the seller agrees to remove all debris from the property and leave the house in broom sweep condition. So that would be the pertinence of the conditions. And Schedule B is this usually the conditions of the brokerage. So the main thing about Schedule B is the delivery of the deposit. So the Schedule B is for the brokerage, and the main key thing about the Schedule B is usually the delivery and the handling of the deposit. So each of the brokerage would have a different clauses on their own Schedule B, and it differs from brokerage to brokerage. As you can see here, they have their own clauses under Schedule B, but it would be different from other brokerage. So you can just go through and read on what it says on the Schedule B. Okay, so the next form is Form 320, the Confirmation of Cooperation and Representation. And what this form means is that this is the form that shows who's representing the buyer and who's representing the seller. In this case, I would be representing the buyer, and the seller is being represented by the listing brokerage. And this is what the pertinence of all this offer.